Hi, it's Jessie. I'm back again, and apparently I'm not done talking. Um, I have been through so much stuff. Like, you would not even believe the amount of stuff that I've been through without even doing anything wrong. Um, you know how the Bible tells you about the first beast who gives rise to the second beast who gives rise to the seven-headed beast? Everything that I'm talking to you about is kind of like that, you know? That whole mess of what I was talking to you about before, where everything is connected, how, people weaponize people against people, how the school, though they had no problem with me, no problem with my kids, how they got involved with a case, and how they then exploited other agencies to make their case against me, like sending DCFS into my house, even though it wasn't warranted, even though they had no justification for it. They pull out the kid and they interrogate the kid, and it's not to say that my house was, this shining example of, Brady Bunch living, um, the the thing is, in my house, I suffer for God, you see. So that second beast who gives me so much problems, um, I don't react to him. I don't respond to him in the ways that merit some kind of fight. I just kind of take everything he does to me, right? And I have limits, He doesn't get to do it in front of my kids, you know. He knows my limit there, and he doesn't so much push it. In the 20 years that, you know more than 20 years, um, there have only been, several times where something has happened in front of my kids. Greatly, it happens outside of their view when they're not looking, and when they come into view, he walks away. He walks away, he lays in his bed, he picks up his video games, and he plays. He does not leave witnesses. And maybe that's to his benefit, but in raising my kids around a beast, it's been to their benefit, it means that they got to live happy lives as children. Not so much my other two, because I got this seven-headed beast on me, stirring up problems and playing sides and provoking things, And I'm sure that, the teachers down the street, they don't think that they're part of a seven-headed beast, because they all think they're on some righteous cause, that they're doing their job, that they're protecting children. But you see, you don't protect children by controlling the environment around them, by provoking problems, by playing their parents against each other. Um, you you don't you don't start a war in someone's home and sit outside of it and seeing how you can make it bigger, how you can grow the war, how you can launch this proxy war and destroy someone's house. And in my house, they didn't just, undermine me. They turned their siblings against one another. So they all complain and judge and condemn one another, whereas when they were really little, they were super loving to one another, and they were helpful where one had a shortcoming. They would pick up where one lacked, and it didn't matter that, they didn't all have the same expectations, that they didn't all have the same responsibilities, because we just got along. We just fit together until this seven-headed beast came in and started playing. And I'm sure, because the first beast gives rise to the second beast, that one who broke me in childhood, you know, ruined my credibility there, you know. When the second beast came along, he reaches back to that childhood and justifies what he does by what was done to me. Like he says, I understand why your brothers beat you, and I'm like, what are you talking about? They didn't beat me. My brother would push me down and spit in my face, hold me down for hours and tell me that no one loved me, that my parents didn't love me. And I was just a tiny child, no bigger than 7 years old. I was just a small child, They would take my toys. They would throw them in the garbage. They would, mangle my doll's head in bicycle spokes and hand it back to me and say, here you go, you know. They did all kinds of horrible things to me. They told lies about me. They set me up in things so that I'd be punished by other people, like that time when my brother was like, he taught me how to say freckles as frickers. Well, I won't use the F-U word. I'll just say frickers. And so I went to my mommy and was like, I'm a fricker face and so are you. And I was only like 3 or 4 years old. I can judge my age by the house that I lived in when it happened. We didn't move out of this house until I was past 4. So it happened before I moved out. I was about 3 or 4 years old. I got the mess beat out of me by my mother because my brother taught me to say frickers and tell mommy that, I'm a fricker face and so is she and we should be so happy, My brothers were manipulative and like this, and this is how they broke me. This is how they broke my mind, playing with me and making me do things that would get me in trouble, So the second beast who came along and taunted me with this thing of, I understand why your brothers beat you, as a way of getting away with, as a way of his alibi, of justifying what he did to me, because I'm this person who deserves to be beat, I'm this person who deserves to be dragged by her ankles into a bedroom because she won't go. I'm this person who deserves to have her clothes stripped off her and left in a room naked until she comes to him. I'm this person, So my children didn't see these things. They happened when they were sleeping. They happened when they were in school. They happened when they were too little to know what was going on, They didn't happen when the children had faculties to understand. When they were infants, yeah. But once they could bear witness to something, things weren't done in front of children. So when you snatch my kid out of the classroom and you're interrogating her, you don't know like what happens in my house. And when you send DCFS into my house and you cause this ruckus, you uproot us from our home and then you drop us. You just tell us we're closing the case. No indications. There's nothing we can do. You uprooted us for 2 months from our home. You tried to play the staff, and not only the staff in the shelter, but the people against me. You had everyone convinced that I was this person who made up stories against my brother from when I was younger, who is a convicted sex offender by his own admission. He took a plea bargain, When you understand these things and understand that they ran this narrative because people didn't know any better, because people were willing to judge me off of what they said and were willing to punish me off of what they said, that they pick up things from the past and without knowing anything that happened, that, my brother took a plea bargain, he confessed his crimes, We're going to say I ruined his life, and I faked my illness the whole time I was in institutions as a teenager and as a young adult. You're going to say I faked my illness, that I wasn't who I said I was, that I wasn't broken, that I could have functioned out in society. I dropped out of high school after my freshman year of high school, and I was smart. I was very smart. I could do math in my head. I could do complex algebra problems in my head. My son has the same gift, My children are incredibly intelligent, I wasn't a bad person, I had skills. It's just I was broken. I was broken in my mind. I was broken in my heart. I was broken with all these people putting judgment on me because, of course, that first piece, he runs this narrative and goes around and tells people, you don't know her like I know her. She's evil. So it cuts off relationships and it cuts off friends. And basically, they're doing the same thing that they're accusing me of. And the beast down here who did all this stuff is no different from the second beast, is no different from the seven-headed beast. You know, it's no different at every single level. It's no different. And I want you to understand that. So when I speak to you, I'm speaking from, 20 years of, 40 years of experience, really, of being mangled and handled by these beasts. And when I tell you that these people in these agencies, in the schools, in DCFS, in the doctor's office, that they did these things, that they worked the people underneath them, that they did these things. I want you to understand that what I went through, I don't need your sympathy for my victimhood. You understand? I don't really talk about my brother because, that was so long ago, and my brother deserves some redemption somewhere. I don't know. I haven't seen or talked to him in many, many years, I have nothing to do with his life, and, I pray God redeemed him, right? So we don't talk about that stuff anymore. And my second beast, I see that he has changed a lot from who he was 10 years ago when I first moved in here. I see that he has changed a whole lot. So I don't like to talk about the things that he did to me that he doesn't do anymore, But I also understand that some people make a case because they don't want to be held accountable for the things that they did before. Not just that they would be held accountable in a court of law, but they don't want people to know that they were this kind of person. And I frankly don't give a damn, I don't care anymore, I went through this, and it gave rise to the seven-headed beast, and the seven-headed beast who thought that stripping away my disability benefits, who thought of killing me because of what they thought of my history, what they decided to accept as truth, to say that I ruined my brother's life. No, he confessed. To say that I'm married, or I'm married to my children's grandfather, where is your proof? I understand y'all manufacture files, and you put things in folders that don't belong, like they accused me of having an abortion. It's in a medical file somewhere. I never had an abortion. They accused me of being married. I've never been married, They accused me of doing a lot of things that I've never done, that they substantiate all by themselves, that they substantiate on the testimony of witnesses that they procure by telling them these lies, They always want to put me on trial constantly, and the way that they work the trial is working iniquity, So when I come up here and I speak to you, it's because I have no place to go in this world. I have no place. If I go back to work, they attack me. They start running the same game with the same people. They start playing with my paycheck. They start sabotaging me again. They got a fresh new army every time I go out. And so, like Elijah in the cave, I don't want to go out. I am tired of getting whooped. So let's talk about these things, and let's deal with these things. Let's put everything out in the open. Let's deal with these things, because I understand my brother, who did everything. My son, who they're trying to pin stuff on, my brother and him kept contact throughout the years. I didn't know this. I didn't know. My brother is one of these charismatic monsters who are real good at brainwashing and real good at controlling your opinion. He's the life of the party. Come smoke a joint with him or whatever. We'll come over, have a drink, we'll have a barbecue. My brother is the life of the party. He's a very charming guy, So yeah, my son looks to him like he didn't do everything that he did, but I didn't tell my son what he did because that was before he was born. And I don't hold things over people's heads forever because people deserve redemption. But my brother was working my child. My brother who was hating me, who was trying to kill me, he was working my child the entire time. This father who was also involved in all this nonsense was also working my child. The one time that he put his hands on me, the one time that he punched me in my face 3 times, he texted my son, "Don't let your mom hurt the kids." The one time he hurts me, he controls the narrative and makes it sound like this. But I know he can't just say this kind of statement, that he's been grooming my son all along. And it's not just him that was grooming my son, this seven-headed beast who worked with the teachers. And they got my kid coming home and talking about the Holocaust was population control. They got my kid coming home and spouting nonsense, and I can't correct him because he hates me, because he doesn't want my approval, because these people over there are twisting ideology in his head and puffing him up with entitlement and letting him get away with things that he should not get away with, giving him a free pass in life, and just not only that, but sending in interrogators, DCFS, to him on a regular basis all throughout high school. And how embarrassing it was for him, for his friends, to see a social worker pulling him out of class, on a regular basis. And what's going on in your home, you know how cruel kids are, you know how this affected him socially. And now, after all this, you want to hang everything on my son? I don't think so. No way. Back off. You worked iniquity. And even if I can't prove this stuff, I can prove that time when we first enrolled him in school and you sent me that notification saying that he was missing a shot. You sent me a bogus shot record because you knew I didn't have access to my kid's shot record. But I found the real shot record. He had the shot that you wanted him to get. And the shot that they gave him was something else in the doctor's office. There's a record of this, how they played with the record and they coordinated the attack against me to make it look like he didn't have all his shots, to make it look like I was neglectful of my parental responsibilities in some way, to make it look like. And then we go to the doctor and then we have two witnesses saying the same thing, only they give him a different shot. It's crazy of the way that they work things so that you have a hard time explaining them because it don't make no rational sense to anybody. But this is their standard operating procedure. It ain't one beast you're going for. It's a seven-headed beast. They work together like in collusion, like a conspiracy, They conspire against you. They plot and they scheme together. And they use their positions as trusted professionals against you, playing with the truth. They told me my youngest son had glaucoma when he was in kindergarten. They arranged the appointment for me to take him in. They arranged the appointment and then they trolled me about it. They trolled me about making sure that I kept up with his appointments. They trolled me about it when I told them that he doesn't have glaucoma. They made everything look like my fault, but they orchestrated the whole thing from the optometrist to the specialist to the next guy. And then they came back and they tried to whitewash their crime with the most recent eye doctor, saying that if they looked at this, they would have sent him in for a consult regarding glaucoma too, because he's got enlarged cones or something, but it's the way that they exploit information. It's not just that he may have a risk factor for it. It was the way that they exploited the risk factor. It was the way they told me that he had it. It was the way that they pushed me to a specialist. It was the way they hounded me on having him cared for in a specialist. It's the way they kept on it, and it's the way they try to make it look like I was making something up in the end, that he had glaucoma when he didn't. They orchestrated the whole thing, and you don't understand how it works because you look at these people and they're trusted professionals. You're going, they wouldn't do that. But they did it. They did it over and over and over again, as if my life had no value, as if I should just give up and kill myself, as if my kids' lives had no value. That it didn't matter they were turning him into a sociopath, because they know how to groom sociopaths. They know how to do it. It's the golden child. It's the one that has their needs met. It's the one that condemns others, It's the one that will say whatever they want them to say because this kid needs their approval, because if it doesn't have their approval, they know that that they get attacked, right? My kid was bullied for so long before they started puffing him up. He was bullied for so long. They fed him rotten food with school lunches. This is why my kids don't eat school lunches. This is why I say my kids don't need your nasty food. They gave him moldy bread. Every day he had school lunches. They gave him moldy bread. What kind of monster does that? What kind of lunch lady passes out moldy bread to a targeted child every day? Do you not see how big this network goes? It is not just the wrongdoing of one person. The beast has 7 heads, The beast has 7 heads. And everybody serves it. From the lunch ladies, to your neighbors, to your pediatrician, to the dentist, to your teachers, to your priest. Everybody serves it. And then you wonder why there's so much chaos in the world. If you went through what I went through, you'd expect a lot more. But going through what I go through, I understand that it is targeted people that they get to. Like those people like me who don't make their contribution to society in the way that, because I was disabled young, they decided that my life had no value. And they stripped away my protection as a disabled person by stripping away my benefits and accusing me of being a scammer, by accusing me of fraud. If I was guilty of fraud, they could have arrested me. They could have put me on trial. I might have served a few years. It has been more than 10 years since I lost my benefits. Not only that, nowhere in the law does it prescribe that my children have to be punished for my actions. Nowhere in our Constitution does it say that. With the Jews, Moses said, punish them to the 4th generation, right? But nowhere in my Constitution does it say we attack children if we think their parents have done wrong. Nowhere in my Constitution does it say that. For everything that I've been through, do you think I'm not broken? I am broken. It is through death that I speak life to you. It is through death that I say no more. No more, because I got nothing else to lose. These people kill what they cannot control. I understand that. I've been killed many times by it, but enough. If you want to kill me, you're going to have to do more than take my life. You're going to have to take my breath, because we're going to walk this out. And I'm going to point out what you did. Why? Because I have a Constitution. Because I'm an American citizen. Because I have a God. Because he calls me Israel. And if anybody can take them down, I can. If anybody can make them change, I can. Why? How? Because God is with me and he backs me up. Because prosperity is linked, and I told you, we die together. So as you hit me, expect the storms to come. As you hit me, expect the fires to come. As you hit me, expect the land to shake. As you hit me, expect your leaders not be able to pass policies, pass budgets. As you hit me, expect your economy to crash, If you take a swing, you take a blow. I don't need an army. I have a God. So I speak because I've had enough. And just because I suffer for God doesn't mean I'm going to keep tolerating you whooping me. Because it's not just me. It's not just me. This is a standard operating procedure for you all. This is a world order. They tell you to be afraid of the new world order. You should be afraid of what's standing right now. You should be very afraid. And just because it doesn't touch you doesn't mean it doesn't involve you. Each and every one of us, as citizens within the nation, have an obligation to maintain the law of the land. Why? Because that's our covenant with each other. That's our covenant with God. That's our agreement. And if we don't, then we will turn into a nation of jackals, one that eats each other for survival. We'll turn into a nation that has these militias that come in kidnap your children, rape your women, traffic them. Oh, wait, we already are. We already are that way. But don't you understand, the thing that you're missing is the law. The law is your protection. The law is your defense. You don't need walls and gates and guns and whatnot. You need to live as people of law, you know? And in order to maintain the law, you have to respect the law with respect to your neighbors. You know? You cannot let evil rule in you or over you. And that is the whole point of what I'm saying. Nothing that I've been through had to happen. It happened because people were weak in the law. It happened because the nation is full of jackals. It happened because we all about to die. The lower I go, the lower you go. Prosperity is linked. We're near the end, you know. I'm struggling in my bed like David was, you know. I'm struggling with all my bones being out of joint and whatnot, you know. But I understand prosperity is linked. So if I feel this low, that's how low the world is. We die together, we rise together. And that's a thing that you need to understand. Everybody likes to throw this karma thing up. Like, oh, that's karma when something bad happens to you. No, karma is we die together, we rise together. You cannot hurt me without also hurting yourself. It's understanding that what you put out comes back to you. This iniquity, even though you think you're slick and nobody sees you, God sees. That we have a God who sees. That we have a God who passes judgments on a nation. And though you don't see his hand working, you see these people rising up with mass shootings, you know. You see people rising up to cut people down, and you don't understand the reasoning. There's judgments on nations, you know. This seven-headed beast, even if you don't get God, even if you don't get the seven-headed beast, you have to understand that you are responsible for the nation that you're building. You are responsible for the nation that you live with. You have to decide what you tolerate, and I'm deciding I'm not tolerating this nonsense anymore. And I think I can be done talking now. I hear my kitty screaming upstairs. I don't know if you can hear that, but she's really wailing. I gotta go see what's going on with her. Yeah, so that's all I have to say for today. Y'all have a good day and God bless.